I really appreciate all of you that enjoy listening to me talking about cannabis and marijuana here on When I'm Not Podcasting, and I do a lot, because one of the things, if you want to hear a lot more of it, then I would tell you to go ahead and check out my program, my half-hour program that I do on Cannabis Radio called Blunt Business, where you can listen to me talk to the likes of Tommy Chong and Dr. Dina and every business professional out there that is doing some really great stuff in the world of cannabis. You can check that out now at cannabisradio.com or wherever you find your podcasts. Go ahead and check it out. There's almost about 200 episodes there. You should go ahead and take a listen and enjoy. It's really great stuff. Now let's go and move along to cannabis. We talk about this in this segment today. Marijuana legalization has won, according to German Lopez in Vox. So let's see what he says. Marijuana legalization in sweeping states from Virginia to Mexico. The writing is on the wall. And there's talk about how the president is still opposing marijuana legislation. And I think part of the reason might be is because there's a lot of economic factors in the corporate sense about who will be able to go and get their hands on being able to do this. And that's one of the things that's being talked about. So long story short, I'll talk about what the political situation is without going into politics. All I want is cannabis to get legalized. That's just the whole point. So at the moment, Senate Majority Leader, recently Chuck Schumer, has been very vocal, and he wants to pass cannabis legalization. Great. He doesn't want to do decriminalization. He has now changed his stance on decriminalizing. Now he feels like that he thought there would be some ramifications, some bad effects of legalization in certain various states. But now he realized, you know what? Hey, I guess maybe whatever kind of fears or hesitations I had about it, I don't have them anymore. Because obviously somebody probably got behind him and said, you know what? In New York, we're legalizing. Hey, you're going to get a little bit of kickback there, Chuck. So come on board. So normally, Schumer's a Biden ally, but he's now one of the biggest advocates for marijuana legalization, and Biden continues to oppose, as we're learning. But Schumer says he would move forward with the bill anyway. Quote, I want to make my arguments to him, as many other advocates will, but at some point we're going to have to move forward, period. Good. Now, one of the things that's being worried about, according to Schumer, is a primary challenge from the left, because Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez might actually go after his seat. What? Well, I haven't been following politics all year, and that's good. And I'll tell you, all of you should do the same thing. No news, no politics. So good. And I'm still informed, and I feel good about it. It's so relieving. You guys should try it for yourselves. But now the president, increasingly, according to Fox here, they're saying he's out of step with not just his party, but the country and perhaps even most Republicans on marijuana legalization. It's extremely popular. Gallup and the Pew Research Center have consistently found at least 2/3 of Americans back legalization. There's more to go and say about that, but we'll leave it right there. But now, as we know, 17 states have now legalized marijuana, most recently New Mexico. And this is legalizing for adult use. Meanwhile, there's about 40 states now in the country that have medicinal use, which includes Florida, where I am at. So one of the 15 states where marijuana legalization has been put in front of voters since 2012, when it first came out with Colorado and Washington State first legalizing, it's 1 in 13. There we go. Let's go ahead and talk about what the op-ed here from German Lopez says all about it. So now almost half the country, about 43% of the population, now live in a state where marijuana is legal to consume just for fun. 14 states. 17 states. The past 2 months alone, we've seen legalization now for recreational use, or adult use, we like to call it in the cannabis industry. New Jersey, New York, Virginia, and now New Mexico, as I record this week. As we already talked about, the surveys are already saying everything that they need to say. And we talked about Schumer. And they're going through the same information they went through, as I just talked to in the other Vox article. So marijuana has appeared on the ballot in 4 states dominated by Republicans. Alaska, Montana, North Dakota, and South Dakota is 1 in 3 of them, losing only to North Dakota. So in red states, doesn't matter. Green or blue states, doesn't matter. Now, what's happening also is that politicians are flip-flopping to support legalization once their state legalizes, so things go basically fine. So Colorado then Governor John Hickenlooper said he opposed the ballot measure, and then supported legalization and bragged about his administration implemented it by the time he ran for senator in 2020, for his presidential run, of course. Washington Governor Jay Inslee opposed during his 2012 run, said he'd do differently to this position of decriminalizing it earlier had he known how successful this was. So even the politicians are changing their mind about it because they'll probably get some money off of it. But hey, if cannabis gets legalized, that's good. That's what we're talking about here. So the new industry can now use this economic weight to directly back legalization measures, providing much needed funding to get them help across the finish line. And this way, marijuana's legalization success at the ballot box will lead to more success. There are, of course, still major barriers to full legalization nationwide. Marijuana remains totally illegal under federal law, including states that have legalized it under their own statutes. But it is going to other countries. Again, I'm seeing it in Africa. Lesotho, South Africa is now putting a pure cannabis bill together to go in full adult use in that country. You're seeing it in Europe. You're seeing it in Asia. You're seeing it in South America. It's going to be global at some point. Canada, we've already seen the example of how it's worked. It's not been effective, but Canada needs to be the role model that we say, okay, federal legalization should not be done the way it was done in Canada. It just wasn't working. But there's just so many companies and so much cultivation up there. The opportunities for business is great, but for the consumers, it's not been so good because there's been too much regulation, too hard to get supply out to the demand. And that's where we're coming at right now. So with cannabis here now, as I said before in previous episodes, lobbying is coming in right now in full force. The stocks are also starting to feel something right now as well. So people are keeping an eye on it. Cannabis stocks are getting a bit of a jump. Keep an eye on that right now. Keep it on the fact of what the legalization is coming in, the Safe Banking Act, which would be a financial and insurance relief for cannabis businesses, because right now, cannabis businesses can't really go and go to a bank and put their money in there or get loans or get financing. They can't do that yet. And also the same issue with issues like insurance. So now, the Safe Banking Act, which has already passed through the House, it's going to the Senate. It could be passed as early as next week as I record this show. So, or coming up on it's April 17th as I record this show. So the following week, the week of April 20th or 4/20 is coming up, and it might just actually be put up for a debate. It could be going up for a vote. And if it does, very well. It will really help the industry. People are really clamoring for it in the cannabis industry. It would be a great help to get the Safe Banking Act off the ground. The other thing is then the legalization effort itself, which I know that the Biden administration is more concerned about infrastructure and they're worried about other areas to go after. I'm not been following so much of that, but for cannabis, the bill's going after it right now. And if it's something where it's more of a states act with a way to increase social equity, I do agree with that. And I also agree with the fact that decriminalization, absolutely, that all that needs to be addressed in a full-fledged federal legalization and descheduling the drug altogether. Descheduling marijuana altogether. No, it's being used for medicinal use. It's going to be used by people that are 21 and older. I don't think you can go 18. You got to be 21 and older to go and consume cannabis. So you get that, and you do the right thing, and you have every state enforce, much like you do alcohol or tobacco, in the same vein. But what's going to happen now is that tobacco and alcohol want to also be involved in the play. So what they're going to do is they're going to help cannabis get across the finish line. According to OpenSecrets.org, the lobbying money that's being put in. So how much the politicians are making off of tobacco and alcohol on a regular basis? Well, as of 2020, tobacco put in $30 million annually to the politicians for lobbying efforts. Alcohol, $27 million. Cannabis only put in $4 million. So now this extra influx of cash is going to help entice and tease and persuade the politicians, not just the way that this Fox article is talking about. They're realizing that cannabis is working well in these individual states or in their states. And then you see what comes up when it comes to the tax revenue and what their kickback comes from that. That's why they're all doing it. And they also know that actually if they want to do something good to help the economy recover, letting the cannabis industry come in and be able to go ahead and contribute and let there be new places to invest would actually give some relief to everybody. That's really what it comes down to. There's a lot of people that want it. They want to use it, so let them. It's just another vice. Why not? So we'll leave it there. We'll keep an eye on it. And maybe one of these days I'll get to talk about it right here on the program. Until then, I'll talk to you next time.